So I just saw Superman 2025 and I liked it. Quick short review would be, it's good, it's fun. It has everything you kind of want from a superhero film at this point, while still not feeling ever boring. There's gonna always be predictability to these type of movies, like, you know, the hero's gonna win at the end in some way. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think predictability doesn't mean that a film has to fail, or that every film has to have like some big major twist, but it does have some big reveals in it that do change the superhero mythos than we're used to, especially for Superman specifically. I want to talk about the good and the bad, not in that order. But before we really get into it, I want to first just throw my biases out there so everyone's really understanding where I'm coming from as a fan. One, I am a big Superman fan. I think he's a fantastic character. There was a time period when I was younger where I was like, oh, he's OP, blah, 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 he's a Boy Scout. And then quickly I grew up and read a comic and I was like, oh, okay, well, I like this a lot. We kind of need this energy. I want to be this type of person. I really like this character. He's not flawless. He's vulnerable. He's a very fun, interesting character. So I'm coming at this as a Superman fan, as someone who's read a lot of his comics. I'm also coming at this from a different perspective from other people, I think. Because when I was younger, I really loved the Donner Superman movies, just like everyone else. And I also saw Man of Steel, the Zack Snyder one, in theaters, and at the time I hated it. I just did not like it. I thought it was boring, I thought it was a failure, I thought it wasn't true to the character, I thought I was too obsessed with the God metaphors and blah blah blah. And now that I'm a little bit older, my views kind of shift a little bit. The Donner movie is still very good, I just don't know if it's like the exact perfect Superman movie. Like, yeah, it's the Superman movie for a reason, and for the time period I think it really specifically hits the nail on the head for who Superman was at that time. But more modernly, I would like a little bit different type of vulnerability with the character. I think Man of Steel actually attempts to be a type of Superman that I'm more into, or that I think is a little bit more close to modern comic interpretations of the character. I don't think Man of Steel is great, but I do like it a lot more now. I rewatched it like 2 years ago and I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. The cinematography is great. I really like the messaging that they're trying to do for Superman. I don't think it really hits the nail on the head. Zod is a very formidable character. I really like the idea of this superhero who lost his culture, having to give up his culture in order to save the people he cares about. I think that's a really hard decision to make for a character. I still stand by Zod's death wasn't handled great, but maybe the reaction was a little bit overblown, I don't know. The Pa Kent stuff does not work still for me to this day, and Amy Adams, I love her as an actor, it's just not a fun Lois Lane. It's just like really, really monotone dialogue, and I don't know where that's coming from, but their interaction just sparked nothing inside of me. It was just bland. But that being said, I still like Man of Steel. Like, the first flight scene is something that's just phenomenal. I don't think any superhero movie ever made me feel the way that scene made me feel. The last bias is that there was never a single moment during this production or announcement or anything where I thought James Gunn was a bad choice for this movie. I loved his Guardians of the Galaxy. I could very clearly see how he's able to balance his own type of humor, more audience-friendly humor, and the heart of these characters. I don't want to say these characters are ever totally one for one comic accurate, but when I talk about comic accuracy, what I'm looking for mostly is the heart of the character. Sometimes that doesn't come through, like with Drax, that did not come through for me at all. But for someone like Gamora, where the character was very different, but there's still a sense of humanity inside the character. Same with Star-Lord. Star-Lord starts really, really different from what we see in the comics. But by the third movie, he feels like a very well-rounded character. So even though he's not comic accurate, there's still a heart in the character. And I don't know for me if it mattered too much that he wasn't a one-for-one for what I knew from the comic. And of course, Rocket Raccoon has the best trilogy arc in pretty much all of Marvel. So on top of that, I also liked his Suicide Squad movie, and I liked Peacemaker. So for me, when he got announced for Superman, there was a lot of naysayers, and I never gave up hope for a single second. I was like, I'm gonna fucking love this movie. There's no doubt in my mind. And guess what? I loved the movie. Before we get into what I really liked about the movie, let's talk a little bit about the things that I didn't like about it. First being the first 10 minutes. The first 10 minutes of it made me doubt myself almost. I was almost like, oh shit, did I fuck up by really betting on this horse? First 10 minutes are very exposition-y. The dialogue is kind of corny, but it's not offending corny. It was just kind of all right. We're not gonna get too much into spoiler talk this early on at least, but it really didn't kick off for me until the Daily Planet scene. So that's a good 10 to like 10 minutes of the movie. For like 10 minutes of the movie, I'm just kind of like, oh man, yeah, this is fine, but also like, boy, oh boy, do I kind of want to like push past this real quick. My other criticism would be that I don't think there's too many characters. That was a criticism that a lot of people had going into the movie. I think they were proven incredibly wrong. I think the cast was really well balanced for the most part. The only thing I wish we saw more of was I wish we saw more Clark. Like, we got a lot of Superman, and a lot of Superman being not a public figure facing guy, but more just behind the scenes Superman. But we didn't get a lot of Clark Kent, and I kind of wish we did, especially because this movie's whole premise was like, I'm just as human regardless of where I come from. And so to not show all aspects of the character, I think was a little bit of a missed opportunity. And the last bit is more of my own read on it, or maybe my concern, but with one of the reveals, it makes me kind of question what exactly we're going to be saying about Kryptonians and Krypton in general in the future. I think Krypton has this reputation of being this very logical, science-based, kind of cold world, which I do like, but normally his parents kind of like flip it on their head. And I feel like this movie kind of ends at a place where, I don't know, it kind of feels like the focus was so much on like, I'm human, I'm human, I'm human, that by the end, it feels like there's almost an abandonment of his Kryptonian heritage. Maybe if I rewatch it, I'll have a different opinion, but right now it kind of sat weird with me that it felt like a total abandonment by the end of the movie to just be so focused on the I am a human like you messaging. But at the same time, I understand where the messaging was coming from. It was supposed to be a immigrant story of like, hey, just because I come from a different place doesn't mean I don't have feelings, that I don't have a heart, that I don't bleed. I get that messaging, but I feel like the messaging could have been like, yes, I bleed. Also, yes, I come from a different place, and that's also totally okay. But rather than that, I really didn't have that many complaints. I really liked the movie a lot. Did I love it? Probably. I think when I left the movie, I felt a lot of love for it. Now, 2 days later, the love kind of dropped a little bit, but it's still high up on my watch list in terms of like 2025. Starting with the characters, again, there's a lot of characters, but I feel like everyone kind of gets a little bit of a moment to shine. Like Hawkgirl could have got more defining moments, I guess, and so could have Guy Gardner, but at the same time, their defining moments really speak to who they are, and you get a little bit of an arc. Mr. Terrific steals the show. I was very surprised how much screen time he got and how integral to the plot he actually was. But it was a lot of fun. I really like the actor who played it. I think he did a great job. It's a different take on Mr. Terrific than the comics. So again, it's one of those things where it's not gonna be one for one, but for me, I thought it was a fun take on the character, and there still was the same heart to the character, so I didn't mind that. I like the Daily Planet team a lot. I think Steve was very funny the entire movie. Cat Grant really didn't get a lot. She was kind of like there to almost prop Lois up in order to say something about how she's feeling. And even though Perry didn't get a lot of screen time, there is like a moment where he gets to like lead the charge kind of. So it always feels like these characters, every single person in this movie feels like an actual character with a life behind them. I think a big criticism for the movie for some people would be that, oh, there's so many characters and not everyone gets a lot of time to be defining. But I think that it's a lot more subtle than that. These characters, again, just feel lived in. Like they breathe, that they go home, that they have a life outside of like this movie. Guy Gardner was hilarious. Hawkgirl was also really fun. I really like the whole Justice League gang's relationship and how they back and forth banter off each other. Like they all kind of respect each other, but at the same time are a little frustrated to have to be working this job that they're working together. But I think the highlights of this is going to be Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, Superman, and Lex. They are such fun characters. Like when I'm thinking about how I want these characters to be on the screen, there's no doubt in my mind that this is exactly how I imagined them. I was surprised by how integral, again, Jimmy was to the plot. Jimmy Olsen is someone that I think is integral to Superman's stories as his best friend. I know that's a debate, I guess, but for me, there's no question about it. I love Jimmy Olsen, and I think the movie does a great job of making him feel like a character with his life. I love the reoccurring joke of Jimmy just like all the women want him, and he has like all these numbers and like the hottest babes, and everyone's just like, how do you do it? And he just does it, you know? I think that's a funny bit. And for anyone who cares, it's comic accurate. I think a lot of the characters get arcs in this movie, but the most like story defining ones are definitely for Clark, Lois, and Lex. I think Lois is my favorite of the three arcs. I think it's a very hard conversation to have when you're balancing this superhero life with real human relationships, right? And Rachel Brosnahan just knocks it out of I don't know if that's how you say her last name. Rachel knocks it out of the park with the portrayal of Lois Lane. I thought the character was really fun. She felt really smart. She was demanding. She was logical. She was self-conscious, but like always had this wall up. It really felt like this perfect idealization of who the character should be. And she felt really integral to the plot. Again, I'm just so surprised how almost every single character feels important to the plot. Like, I don't think there was really anyone that didn't. Even Evie, who was Lex's girlfriend in this movie, even she has integral moments that affect this plot, that if you take them out, the plot no longer works. It's really interesting to look at this from just like a story written perspective. How much there's like no fat on this movie, despite there being clear areas that they could have trimmed off. Superman himself, I think, is a very fun character. I think he has a lot of trouble in this movie for me, just in that there are so many characters that getting him moments to shine can be hard, but the movie still lands it. Like, I think that Superman gets a lot of moments to shine. I think it's really cool to see how he inspires people. It really gets felt in that. And also to see him have like a lot of emotion. Henry Cavill was a fine Superman. I have nothing really against him as Superman. I think he's just like borderline good enough. But I feel like there's a lot of opportunities where we could have seen him emote in some type of way. So it's cool to see a Superman that is a lot more vulnerable, who doesn't have that total like monotone control of his emotions. I think that's a big thing that people don't like about Superman, is this preconceived notion that he's always one emotion, where he's always happy. And that's not the case in the comics at all. And I really like that it was reflected on the screen, that this is a character who emotes, who gets angry, who doesn't always know the right thing to say, but he always knows that what he's doing has to be the right thing because he's helping people. And I think putting that in the middle of this conflict between two countries was a really smart decision. And whenever you think of Superman, you're always just like, oh, if I was Superman, I would do this. I would just jump down there and stop there. I would do this. And then he does that, and there's huge repercussions because of that. Also, this Superman is so corny, but it works. Like, you could tell this dude is a single kid from a small town who has a ma and pa who like love him too unconditionally. Like, there's this one scene where they're talking about what it means to be punk rock, and Lois is like, I'm more punk rock than you. You're too nice and kind. And he's like, in this culture, that is punk rock. And I was like, man, shut your He's right, but also it's like, bro, you're so corny. And I think, but it works for him. It's not like a Shamik Moore situation where every time he's corny, you're like, oh, brother. It's like more of a, oh, this is my bro. He corny, but he's right. He's corny, but he means well, you know? Like, this is a character that's really lovable to me. But last, and I think the steal of the show has to be Lex Luthor. Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor is so good. It's my favorite Lex Luthor portrayal, bar none. Like, Gene Hackman, rest your soul, love you, bro. No, this Lex Luthor is so good. I love the balance he has, where he has all this control because he's a scary man. He has all these minions who, mind you, are just as gleeful as he is to kick the shit out of Superman. Like, they're beating up Superman and they're like, yeah! And it's not like one of those like, yeah, you give your boss when he says like, oh, we're gonna start marketing towards children. And you're like, yeah, boss, woohoo! And you're like, I don't want to lose my job. No, it's one of those yeahs, you're like, yeah! Like, they look like sports fans. Like, whatever you think of the Buffalo Bills fans is exactly what these people were screaming and cheering like for Superman to get his ass whooped back and forth. And for me, I loved it. My girlfriend, not as big of a fan. She really wished there was more pushback to Lex by his minions, but I thought it was a good reversal. I think we don't get a lot of henchmen anymore in movies or shows where they're just as evil and maniacal as like the main villain. So I really enjoyed them. Again, all these characters felt like these are characters that don't have names, but they still felt like real lived-in people despite being maniacal evil people. And going back to Lex, yeah, he's a character that I think I could empathize with a little bit. Like, I kind of understand where he's going from, but he's also so clearly coming from a place of just utter selfishness. And he even just says that outright. Just straight up just goes like, yeah, I hate him because he's better than me. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, that's exactly what you want from Lex. Usually Lex isn't, I think, so forthcoming about, oh, he's better than me. He doesn't actually usually admit that. He usually like talks around it like, oh, he was handed this power, but I earned it. And this Lex also does that. But at one point he is just kind of like, he's better. I'm scared. I want him dead. He's not actually scared of this character, but he's scared, I think, of just being seen as lesser. And he wants everything. He wants everything and more. Also, this Lex is fucked up. He is brutal. There's one moment that I gasped, and I didn't expect it. And Nicholas Hoult just plays his character with such hate in his eyes. You can see it every time he talks, that he just hates Superman with every being in his body. He's like I Am from, whatchamacallit? What's it called? He's like I Am from I Have No Mouth But I Must Scream. Like, he just viscerally hates this man, and you can see it in every single scene, whether he's happy, whether he's angry, whether he's like sad or frustrated, whatever the feeling is, there's just hate behind the eyes. Hey guys, it's editor Evan. I realized that I missed some characters I actually did want to talk a little bit about, but I won't bore you too much with the details. The three characters are Engineer, Ultraman, and Pa Kent. Ma and Pa Kent were very surprising portrayals of the characters. They really went for the real world, small town Ma and Pa feel instead of the, more traditional Superman Ma and Pa you're used to getting, who are a little bit more, they don't feel as small town as you would kind of expect in modern America, but they never felt like big town or urban. So this was like a jarring take on the characters, I think. Definitely played for a little bit comedy, but also really lovable still. My dad did not like their portrayal at all. He left the theater being like, that wasn't what they were supposed to be like. And I was like, that's probably what they should be like though, right? So it really just gonna come down to what you are expecting from these characters. If I'm being honest, Ma and Pa Kent, besides like raising Superman, should just die and move on, to be honest. Like, I don't mind them being around, but there hasn't been a single Superman story where I was like, oh, Ma and Pa Kent really need to be here for this. They're like the Aunt May of Superman for me, where I'm just kind of like, you did your part, move out the way. However, with all that being said, Pa Kent's scene in this movie really, really got me. It feels so much like a real conversation between a father and son, and the father is really reluctant to show love because he doesn't know how to do it, but he is actually secretly a mushball. It reminded me a little bit of my relationship with my own father, so maybe that's why it hit me a little bit harder. I almost cried in the theater, but I had to lock in because my girlfriend was there. No, I cry around her all the time. So I think that it was really worth it, and it was very clear that James Gunn was pulling from his own relationship with his father, who passed away, I think, right before this movie came out, and the script was written around those feelings. Ma Kent, don't have a lot to say. She was nice enough. Now, Engineer and Ultraman are a little different. I read The Authority. I don't really care about them. I enjoy their stories, and that's about it. The Engineer comes from those stories, and she is really different in the comics than she is in here. In here, she's really viscerally hateful and kind of racist towards aliens. For me, it worked really well. She was really creepy. Like, the way she moved and doing her body movements and everything was really gross, but also really sick. I really enjoyed her fight scenes. You see a little bit of that in the trailer. And I think there's a lot of history behind this character just in how she's saying her lines. You can hear how determined she is to take down Superman, how visceral her hate is for this man that she never met and knows nothing about. Like, she's locked in on the mission to like kill Superman, and she is willing to like go the extra mile that most people wouldn't go. So I think it was a really awesome performance, and there was, again, a lot of history that was just subtly conveyed just through the acting choices in like face and aggression in the voice. It was really impressive. Ultraman, I have nothing to say about. He was fine. He's not really a character. He is the only character I would say that is just a plot device. Maybe Crypto is that too, I would say, but at least Crypto had some personality behind him and everything. Ultraman literally is just like, go do this, now do this. So kind of disappointed that for Ultraman, but also I was kind of just expecting that. Like, it was very clear that they're trying to portray someone who was a stand-in for a potential Doomsday. Like, his outfit's very Doomsday inspired, so I think the idea was to like tease a little bit like, is he Doomsday? Is he Ultraman? Is he something else? Who knows? And it worked on me a little bit, I guess, because I didn't guess the twist until literally the last minute. I'm pretty sure I guessed it like months and months ago and then just forgot, to be honest. Like, I was just speculating and guessed it, but there's really not a lot of mystery put behind who is Ultraman. So when the reveal happens, I was kind of like, oh yeah, shit, I forgot we were supposed to be even thinking about this, to be honest. So take him or leave him, but the Engineer was the more standout in my opinion, but Ultraman felt more important to what the story was really about and how it connects Lex and Superman, I would say. Anyway, on with the show. So for me, Nicholas Hoult steals the show, but it's not like anyone was lacking. Everyone brought their A game to this silly sci-fi shenanigan. Like, I didn't even talk about the plot because the characters are just like the whole plot. The whole plot is revolved around revealing who these characters are, and I think that's such great storytelling. I think the cinematography was really fun. The fight scenes were fantastic. Mr. Terrific again steals the show with his fight scene. I thought it was like very unique. It reminded me a lot of the Yondu fight scenes from Guardians of the Galaxy, so definitely this was all leading up to Mr. Terrific scene. The costume department was fantastic. The special effects were really good. When it was early on in post-production, like they revealed one of the teasers, I remember being like, oh, the dog looks kind of awkward, but it looks really good in the movie. So does like the giant kaiju and like all the other things that are happening. There's never a moment, like in Marvel movies, there's always a moment where I'm just like, oh my god, the CGI, why are we doing this? But there's never a moment for that in this movie for me. I was always like, oh, it's like a pretty clean slate line. I also think the color grading looked good. I think it looked like a bright movie and I could see everything the entire time, which I really appreciated, which can be rare for movies nowadays. And again, I think the story just hits home. I think the performances work really well. Again, I think the immigrant allegory almost falls apart, but I understand what it was going for. So I think it's one of those things where you're like, oh, at the end of the day, it's a Superman movie and not a story about an actual immigrant that we're following or a documentary. So I don't know, I liked it. Wrong. Hey guys, yeah, it's editor Evan again. I just want to come back because it's been a couple days now since I recorded this and I had time to think and talk to some people about it and really reflect a little bit on the whole immigrant allegory. And the more I sit with it, the less it works for me in this movie, just because it really does feel like, and this might be a little bit of a spoiler, so a little spoiler warning, but the message seems to not be driving home enough for me that, hey, I'm an immigrant, I'm an alien, I'm both Kryptonian and human, but that makes me who I am, and that's okay. The message almost feels like, hey, I'm human too. Don't worry about all that other stuff. And I definitely don't like that messaging. I think it's accidental more so, but it's hard to kind of ignore. They show so many different cultures in this movie. We have characters that are Muslim, we have characters that are Arabic, we have a lot of white people. So I definitely think the movie is like trying to champion minorities and be diverse and blah, blah, blah. But again, to have your central character be almost saying like, yeah, fuck Kryptonian stuff. I'm human, guys. Don't worry about that Kryptonian stuff. I'm human just like you. I don't know. That doesn't kind of work really. So do I get what they're going for? Yes. Did it work? I'm gonna say no. Like, I was on the fence before, but straight up no, I don't think the immigrant allegory really worked this time. And I wish there was kind of more of a serious progressive take on it. Like, it would have been nice if there was a serious take of being like, no, Kryptonian heritage is still what makes me who I am, even if I don't agree with everything that's said from my world. What I hope people get from this movie is, one, I hope that we can get back to Superman is a cool character, and just because he's nice and cares about people doesn't make him a loser or lame. His jokes make him a loser and lame. I also hope that people will take away, especially directors, that people are okay with comic booky movies. Like, we will watch a movie that's really silly, that's really sci-fi. This movie hits sci-fi, it hits silly, it hits pulp, it hits campy, it hits every corner of a comic. This movie feels like a comic book. It's the closest thing I think I can think of to an actual comic book being adapted to a movie. There's cameos, there's teases to upcoming events, there's a silly shenanigan monkeys like typing on typewriters. It has everything you could want. The other thing I hope we get from this movie is to stop judging movies before they come out, for the love of God. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? A week ago, before this movie came out, there was a disgusting film post that was like, they took out a scene where Ultraman punches a dog because audience had a negative reaction to it. And everyone lost their goddamn mind. I'm not on Twitter anymore, but I saw a bunch of screenshots of these tweets of people just freaking out and everyone liking the tweets. Even a YouTuber that I really like made a whole video talking about it and how everyone's a wussy now. And I was just kind of like, I don't know, maybe we should watch the movie before we decide if it was a good idea or not. Let me tell you guys, it did not matter. It didn't matter if that dog got punched or not. Something worse happens to this dog at some point in the movie, so I don't understand why this was even a debate in the first place. If I saw the movie and then afterwards they're like, oh yeah, the dog got punched but they took it out of the movie, I'll be like, oh, I do not care either way. I think the reaction made sense because of how movies do censor to go to the audience sensibilities way too much. But for this case, it was just kind of like, you guys are so mad at this movie already before it comes out. And it didn't even matter. It didn't matter in the slightest. And this also goes into the whole there's too many characters thing. Before this movie came out, every time a character got announced, everyone collectively again was just like, where's the Superman characters? Why is there so many characters? Are they gonna have any screen time for Superman and Lois? I even made those jokes. I'm not even gonna lie to you. So in a moment of self-reflection and also a lecture to you as much as it's to me, but then when I saw the movie, the characters felt pretty well balanced. Yeah, I would have liked to see a little bit more time of Lois and Clark interacting, but they also interact so much in the movie, and I understand exactly what the relationship was before the movie, during the movie, and how it's going to play out after the movie, because the movie did a good job with the plot and all the characters were used. So it's one of those things where I'm like, oh yeah, if this was a problem, if there were too many characters and some characters just weren't used at all or didn't matter to the plot whatsoever, I'd be like, okay, yeah, this is just cameo fest. It doesn't actually matter. We could have got rid of all these characters real quick. It's like in the Eternals movie, how Black Knight shows up to do literally nothing but set up his own spin-off that never came out. That's a case of cameos where I'm just like, oh, this didn't matter at all. We just put this in to tease something else, and we didn't need to do this at all. But this movie, besides like one cameo at the end that was literally just there as a fun tease, I don't think there was a single character that you could have taken out and the movie would have been as an effective film or plot. And the last thing I hope that gets taken from this movie is that movies, comics are political because people made them political. Superman was made to be a working class hero. That is immediately a political hero because that's what politics are around. Politics are around what affects us every single day. Superman is a political character. This movie has a character in it that's a very clear spoof of both Donald Trump, Putin, and Ben Netanyahu. Maybe I'm projecting the last one, but I really think that's what they're going for. And it clearly takes the side of humanity. It doesn't take the side of a government. It doesn't take the side of a conservatives or liberals. There's literally a moment in the movie where a character says like, conservative, liberal, who cares? We love Superman, something like that. And the whole point is that like at the end of the day, there is one thing that we have in common, and it's that we're all human on this goddamn stupid planet. So the right thing to do is always to be on the side of humanity. We should be fighting not just for ourselves, not just for our neighbors, but for people we'll never meet, who will never know that we affected. And Superman is that hero. Superman is the hero of the working class. He is the hero of the minority, of the immigrant, of the white man, of the black man. And every time that a superhero comic or movie tries to push away from politics, it's always worse for it. And Superman, I think, was better for it. Again, did it hit the nail on the head for all of its allegories for immigration or even the conflict it was trying to show? Not exactly, but I'd rather people try than not try at all, to be honest. So that's my quick and dirty review of Superman. This is supposed to be a quick video. I think it's still gonna be like 20 minutes. Let me know what you think in the comments, if you liked it, if you hated it, if there was something that was missing. If not, I don't do ratings for movies. I think people think that rating systems are objective for some reason, but they never are. So subjectively, all I can say is this movie is really good. I had a great time. It's one that I'm gonna revisit in the future for sure, and I can't wait for the sequel. All right, bye.